Welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Hello and welcome to the MMA Fan Show. I am Blake Harrison. Joining me as ever is Stu Whiffin, but more importantly than that, we have a fantastic guest with us today. We have the most exciting fighter to ever come out of the UK. He's a man with an unrivaled highlight reel, the most sought-after free agent today in MMA. It's MVP Michael Venom Page. MVP, how you doing, mate?
Yes, very good. I feel thankful to be here, man. So thanks for having me.
No worries, no worries.
Well, you've got loads of time on your hand because you are on the unemployment tour.
yes.
So tell us what's the best parts about having this hiatus from the Octagon? I
think just it's constantly going from camp to camp to camp to camp. Having somebody to focus on makes being creative a little bit more difficult, because I love being creative. My fighting style, as you know, people see, is very creative, but obviously I like to express that during training as well. So as I'm training, I like to try and be creative, but when you have to be specific and, you know, disciplined about what you're doing, it gives less time to, you know, be able to kind of add that creativity. But this free agency tour allows me to, you know, develop and improve those kind of areas and really get my brain and juices flowing for the creativity side. So I like it.
Love it.
And in terms of being a free agent, you know, I when I'm looking at you being a free agent, I almost feel like I'm watching one of those like noughties kind of rom-coms or teeny rom-coms where you're like, I feel like all the big promotions are like the boys asking the cute girl out to the prom or something like that. Is that how it feels? Do you feel very wanted?
Yeah, no, definitely. You see, for a lot of interest coming from multiple different shows, and I think just everyone can see the excitement I bring every time I step in the cage, and I think people would want that and can see some great matchups on their shows with that energy. You know what I mean? So, I definitely feel that. Yeah,
I mean, we've spoken about it on our show before about matchups we'd love to see you in, particularly if you went to the UFC. And Michael Venom Page, let's just say the easy questions are over. We're going to get to the nitty-gritty now, and we're going to put you on trial, because I believe there is evidence to suggest that you're holding out on us and you have actually signed to the UFC. Stu, get the evidence ready. Exhibit A, you in a picture with Dana White. What's going on?
I got to be invited by Hunter over to Abu Dhabi to watch the show over there, which was an exceptional show. And obviously, it was actually the first time I've met Dana. And it was still early doors, but it was just nice to meet the people that are interested.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt you there. I'm going to interrupt. The witness is just I think we need Exhibit B. You've not just been invited to one show, you've been invited to multiple shows, it seems. Look, and not only that, but the UFC have put you on their broadcast. UFC, Michael Page, got your record here. They seem to be very much in love with Michael Venom Page. And you know what? I'm not even going to let you speak on this. Let's go to Exhibit C. This is me asking a question to David Shaw from the UFC about your future back in July.
Michael Venom Page was in the audience tonight, and he's now a free agent. Would the UFC have any interest in him?
I mean, perhaps. I've got no idea. Assume that we would, given the fact that he's here and maybe he's a free agent, but definitely a question for Dana. I think there's, we were talking about it the other day, a long list of individuals who've come over, have done really well in other promotions and have come over. And I mean, look at, Gaethje and Chandler and a few other guys. It'd be pretty exciting to add them to the mix, for sure.
And the only...
It would be exciting to add him to the mix. I'm going to put it to you, Michael Venom Page. You're holding out on us. You've signed to the UFC. Admit it.
I wish I could say, for certain that we have, but we haven't. Honestly speaking, we're not there yet. There's still a few hurdles we need to jump over, but like I said, we're flirting.
Well, is that the dream?
It's difficult to say, because I think there's dream fights, and a lot of those dream fights land in the UFC. And I think when I first, how I feel now to how I felt when I first joined MMA. You first joined MMA, the whole goal was UFC, because there was no other big shows that could really do anything. And over time, it's just things have changed. So there are a lot more it's a lot more than just the name of the brand. There's a lot more to it now. But hopefully we can get there and see those dream fights happen. Yeah.
I feel like you're slightly skirting around the question, Michael Venom Page. I think we're going to close this trial for now. I think the jury is out. I just wanted to know: are you aware of the interrogation technique where someone like shines a light in your eye? You're aware of that, yeah? just it may or may not come up during the show. But let's move on, shall we, Stu?
We're back off you a bit. Take us back, because we always love to chat to guests about this. Tell us about where you grew up, and was it an environment where you had to be able to look after yourself, and was you comfortable in confrontation from a young age?
Yeah, I was raised in some rough areas, tough areas. I don't like to glorify it like that. Like, oh, that's, I needed to go through this tough, because that's just not my personality anyway. And also, I was fortunate enough to have the anchor of martial arts. I started in Lao Gar Kung Fu, then into kickboxing, and that discipline. Not only did it give me, the confidence in myself to be able to, defend myself if need be, but also it gave me a peer group of people that I cared for in terms of their opinion. They're like my family, like a second family. So the peer group that I had, in those areas, they're not always doing the best of things, but I always felt comfortable to say no. So anytime they're like, all right, we're going to go and do this, we're going to go do that, I get to that point, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll miss out. And, people try to encourage you, like, come on, man, because they, I was the fun guy to be around, so they wanted me around, but I'd prefer to disappoint them than disappoint my peer group. Yeah. You know what I mean? Which is good to have, and because I understand how difficult it is I've seen a lot of, some of my old school friends that go down the wrong path purely based on that, and they never really had a rough upbringing. Both my parents were very focused and did the right thing, so I can't blame anybody and be like, oh yeah. Like, I needed to do this. So it's definitely a choice that you make, and I know a lot of people in those areas didn't make the correct choices, and it's usually because they feel pressured to kind of impress that peer group, and I'm just lucky to have another, people that I cared way more about their opinion. So I was just fortunate in that sense, yeah.
And you mentioned your parents, they're both martial artists as well. There must be huge benefits that come with that, but equally, it's maybe frustration at times where I can just imagine you knocking someone out at a tournament and then you going to celebrate, but one of your parents going, yeah, but you didn't do this right, or your back leg was a centimetre out of place, or something like that. Did that ever happen? Was there added pressure with your parents both being martial artists as well?
I'd say that person would have been more my dad. So as much as my mum did the martial arts, she kind of stopped once I was born. And, like I said, as you get older, life kicks in. You have to do certain things, make certain sacrifices. So for her, that sacrifice was allowing me to do it while she had to kind of, keep working. But my dad was more, he was still my coach. He kind of made coaching and martial arts his career. He stepped away from what he was doing before, which is BT work, and then went into martial arts full time. And he was that guy that's like, every time I want to fight, would be like, just add that, and you should have been looking at this. But I like the fact that he put that mindset into me, and I do the same thing with my students now. And one of them, my brother as well. Every time he finished a fight, everyone's going on at him. He's like, "Oh man, that was amazing! That was amazing! That was amazing!" And I'll let him enjoy that, and then I call him over. I'm like, "Yeah, but that was shit. This was good," and that, and he's like, "Yeah, I know." But it's good because. It's weird because when I had to cross over to the mixed martial arts, I had to find a coach that was similar, along that same kind of lines. And I'm proud, or I'm fortunate that I was able to find that type of coach in London Street Fighters, and he's exactly the same. Like every time I finish a fight, crazy kick and this crazy punch and everyone's going nuts, and he's like, "Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that?" And I'm smiling because I'm glad that he's doing that to me. I'm like, okay, yeah, like I like that.
That's great. We take research very seriously on this show, and we go to this place. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Wikipedia, and Stu has an extract to read out to you, actually, from Wikipedia.
Okay. By the age of 13, Page started entering adult competitions. To prepare, he would train 5 hours a day for 5 days a week. During tournament days, he would often fight up to 14 times due to competing in 3 weight classes, and at one point fought 22 times in a day across 5 weight classes. 2 questions. Mm-hmm. 1, is that true? Secondly, if so, that's insane.
Not a question, but very valid. Very valid.
They it sounds like whoever wrote that. They exaggerated the training time. We used to train a lot, to be fair, but I don't know if it was 5 hours. But the actual competition time, because it's very similar to, I always like to structure it like a jiu-jitsu competition or a wrestling competition where you're in a sports hall and you are allowed to enter multiple categories. And one of the days, it always depends on who shows up. And one of the days I entered myself in 5 different sections and everybody showed up. And it was ridiculous. Weird enough, I won them, but I was knackered. I won all 5.
22 in one day?
Yeah. It was literally fight after fight. I was running from one mat to sometimes my coach would have to hold, they say, look, he's fighting, you got to, do the next fight, and then he has to come back. And I'm literally running from one mat to the next, like dead.
They must have hated you.
Yeah.
The other competitors were like, I've just got one tournament and I'm getting beat, and this guy's doing 5 and he's just smashing everyone.
And because I started, as it said, I started entering adult sections at 13, and it's weird. So I think both my parents had this. They have the parent side of them where, they want to keep you safe and so on and so forth. Then they had the martial artists, they had the instructor side of them. And I remember I won the world championship at 12 years old, and then so for some reason, because before then I was getting my ass handed to me, and then I won the world championship, which I qualified, and then won the world championship. Was difficult enough, and that was a day of just it was a long day as well. When I got back, for some reason, something just clicked, and I just went on a killing spree. I was beating everybody that used to beat me in the competitions, just beating every single one of them, and like destroying it. It wasn't even close. So I said to my dad, I was like, can I do like the adult section? And again, the parent side of him was like, hell no. Because the adult section starts at 18 plus.
Yeah.
So they only go on weight. So I'm a scrawny little kid. And he's like, no, just man strength is very different. And I begged him one time, like, please let me fight. And then the instructor side, he's like, I train with certain adults in the gym. And he's just like, okay, cool. So he let me do one competition. I beat everybody in the adult division then. Then that was it. The door's open now. So every time he kept trying to check and see who's fighting that day. And I'll just sign my name up and just go and fight. But then one of them was, if you won, they call it the Grand Championship. So basically, if you won your division, then everybody, all the winners from all the different weight categories go into one section, and then they do like a prize money fight. Now, that means heavyweights. There's not just adults anymore. They're also a lot bigger than you. So I won my division, and I begged my dad, like, please, can I go? And then he's just like, nope. I was like, I just wouldn't leave him alone. I was following him around the whole competition. I wouldn't leave him alone. He's like, okay, we'll fight by fight. We'll see who's... And I got to this final and lost to the guy in the final. But again, I was fine. And then qualified for the England team, and I was the youngest person to fight in the adults English team. And I was a reserve at first because, again, I was a kid, so they didn't want to put me in. And then when they did put me in, I cleaned up, and I never lost a spot on the English team again.
Wow.
I mean, so much of that is absolute madness. But
It really is.
But the thing that really freaked me out was, of the 22 times he was fighting in one day, kind of when you get to like 18, 19 fights in and you're still saying, and we was running from mat to mat. Mate, I'll be crawling, running. What's the rush? Jesus, man.
Everyone is like, hurry up, man.
Oh, man. Well, we've had some really big news today. I don't know if you're aware, but it is official that the PFL have bought Bellator. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that? Do you think that's a good thing to the sport? And also, as a destination, does that interest you?
As in going back to Bellator, or?
Well, I'm assuming it depends how it's going to work. They're saying that it's going to be Bellator's going to remain
as
overseas,
Bellator,
as like in Europe, in America. I don't know, but I'm assuming if you quote unquote re-sign with Bellator, you're now signing with the PFL, and there's lots of other maybe interesting matchups lined up there, including obviously the Bellator roster that will come over eventually to the PFL. Does that interest you as a place to go?
I think PFL by itself is definitely an interesting location to go to, especially with the development, and I can kind of see their progression. I wouldn't re-sign with Bellator, even though it feels like I'd essentially not signing with them, if you know what I mean. But I just wouldn't. It would feel like a backstep. I feel like I've done that now, and I kind of want to progress and move forward. So whether that moving forward is with PFL is fine. That because it's cool. I get to potentially meet up with some people that I didn't get to fight as well. So that could be interesting. And or if I progress and move forward with UFC, but it's definitely. Going back to Bellator would literally feel like that, like a backstep.
Yeah.
So
I understand that.
We've moved into sort of PFL. Is the kind of the $1 million prize? Is that the big draw for fighters in PFL?
No, I don't think so. Well, yes. No one's not going to say no. We're prize fighters, and for me personally, it's not. There's so much more to it. It looks like where they're growing to. The fact that they now kind of partnered with the Saudis as well. If you look at what Saudis are doing to absolutely every sport, they're kind of just taking over everything. So, and one of the common kind of like difficulties or misunderstandings that a lot of people have is in MMA, we don't actually turn over and make a lot of money as considering what we put our bodies through. So I think the interest is just being looked after as a fighter more than anything. And the crazy thing about the PFL is any person that I've spoken to about that's in PFL that I'm friends with, that I can speak to, and I'm like, how is it? How you not one person has said anything bad, and they would. It's not like they would be honest and open because we're all in the same sport. We get the difficulties being in the sport. But I think it's just being treated well and looked after as a fighter, especially because how difficult what we're doing is.
Absolutely.
We want to talk to you about your celebrations because they've been brilliant. But are you going to the UFC? Are you going to the UFC?
Yeah, I plead the fifth.
Oh, good call. That was very good.
He's been in court before.
No, we want to ask you about celebrations because you've got some of the best in all of MMA. I mean, there's the Thanos glove, which we had up earlier. But there's also this here, which you want to talk about, which is an amazing celebration, the Pokemon thing. If you haven't seen it, check
just
this out.
Just you need in a fight, you lose off the lip shot. It can come back. Sandra runs into the Germany, and it's over. Did the hype train just pick up speed? Because it didn't derail. Wow.
Right. That is an incredible celebration because also I believe Pokemon Go had just come out.
Literally.
So you were like proper on like the zeitgeist, what was going on at the time. You were super up to date and it's a great celebration. However, what you did to, and you winced as you saw that because as we know now, you didn't know at the time, obviously. Cyborg Santos fractured his skull with that flying knee. Do you now slightly feel bad about that celebration?
No, it's weird. The celebration is, I'll never feel bad for because that's just part of me. That's the package that you get. If you're fighting me, expect that there's going to be something funny afterwards. So, you be sure that you're going to come in and try and win that fight because for me, it is a full package. But it's just the injury. Obviously, knowing the injury after the fact is more a case of firstly, obviously worried about him because we don't go in there to cause that kind of harm to somebody. And then, obviously now I know he's okay. It's just more a case of I know what happened. And even hearing it now, because it's weird because when you're in there, you don't hear it in the same way. There's too much going on, so you just don't hear the sound. But then when you watch it back, it's like, and even people were saying it echoed.
I was cage side, and I heard, and because he went down and he didn't look like he was out.
Yes, exactly.
I was like, oh, what's going on there? Because we heard the sound, and it echoed around there. Yeah. I'm so glad you said that because so many, me and Pip were walking out and going, mate, you heard that, and it was pretty harrowing.
Yeah. So it's again at the time because my experience of it is not with the sound and everything. So and even afterwards. His face down, so I can't see. So I thought, because as you say, he was still conscious, I thought I must have got his nose or something, he's broken his nose. And that's a common thing in combat sports. So it's it's not that bad. Did my celebration. He's left the cage. My coach saw him, and said he saw his head.
I mean, this is slightly pixelated, but
I mean, you get the gist of it, right?
He saw that and literally said he's not going to tell me so that night, we went out, had fun with my family, friends, celebrated, and nobody told me that had happened. So the next day, my sister had actually sent me, I think it was that picture. Yeah, I think it was that picture. And my family are full of jokers. So I'm like, in my head, my sister just edited. It's like, oh yeah, you've cracked this skull, and I'm laughing. She's like, no, dead serious. This is a picture that he put up online. I was like, you're taking a phoned up that, oh yeah, no, he's fractured his skull. I was like, sorry, what? How's that even? And regardless of whether you're on the positive side or negative side of an impact, you feel it. So if I've landed a good punch, my hand's sore afterwards. So if you landed a good elbow, your elbows, it doesn't matter what side you end up on, yeah? My knee was fine. It didn't bruise, didn't cut. And that's very rare. And I think it's just because it was just, I don't know, just the perfect, I don't know, but I was nothing wrong with my knee. I wasn't limping, nothing. I was fine. And then to see that, I didn't get it. Even now, I don't really get how that's happened, but I seem to have done that to a couple of people. So I just think I just bony as hell.
The only thing I can relate that to is the really good crunch I felt when I smashed that fish's head in the Inbetweeners on that boat. That was a real. I landed some big shots.
Yeah, to catch a fish as well.
Yeah, man. They're slippery
fast,
guys,
man.
Yeah. I mean, it was dead already, but thank you very much.
I mean, let's just say that you're heading to the UFC, right? Now, that division is that top 10 stacked with quite a lot of wrestlers. I don't know about what your thoughts are on this, but I want to know because Blake and I have spoke about this. Wonderboy Thompson, MVP.
I get it a lot.
It's a fight.
But you do, because it's kind of, in some ways, I think a lot of people see it as almost that Spider-Man meme.
Yeah.
People are kind of, exactly. That's what it is, because you've both got such fan-friendly, kind of exciting, striking styles.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Is that a fight that potentially would interest you if you were to sign to
I think
the UFC?
all fights are, all those kind of big names and big fights are definitely, I just want to go in there and just show what I can do at the highest level. So anybody in that top 10 division is exactly those people that I'd want to fight. It's weird though, because I always say this. I feel like sometimes two positives don't necessarily create a positive.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the fact that me and him are so in tune with timing and distance, it may be a very boring fight.
Yeah.
Yes.
As in that we're going to be, it'll be an exciting fight for us. As in me and him, I'll twitch, he'll twitch, and he'll be like I've done it in competitions and the kickboxing world where we know what's just about to happen and we both decided to go against it.
Yeah.
So our fight would be amazing. Everyone's like, the hell are they doing? So I can see it could potentially be that style of a fight where there'll be a couple of exciting moments, but not much happen just because we're so in tune with that kind of timing and exactly when to go. And we're just there's going to be a battle just between us that's happening more so than it. We don't need to. Most fighters need to find their range by throwing punches and kicks, whereas we're doing it with the movement. Yeah. So again, it's not exciting to watch.
That is fascinating though. You do get those chess matches though, like as someone that is very much like, I was speaking to you before the show, like I train so minimally, like I'm just like an armchair fan that loves the sport, but you can still get sucked into the tension of fights like that where anything can happen at any moment. And what we would love to do with you as well before you go is a quick word association game. So we're going to read out some names, some things. You can give it a one-word answer, you give it a sentence, whatever you want, but relatively quick fire. So Leon Edwards.
I was going to say champion. Yeah.
You're unsure about it, though?
No, deserving champion.
Yeah. Colby Covington.
Idiot.
Yeah, that's a good one. We like that. We're the same. The UFC.
Biggest show on the planet.
Bilal Muhammad.
Kind of lacks the entertainment factor.
Kamaru Usman.
Just a beast.
The PFL.
Rising, big show.
Yaroslav Amosov.
Obviously,
he just got beat with
just lost.
Jason Jackson, didn't he?
But just from the fight that I watched, I'm talking about. It was exceptional to watch him. So I I rate him highly.
Yeah. Jason Jackson.
Such a nice guy, and just I'm happy that he's a champion.
Wonderboy Thompson.
Again, another such a nice guy, and I respect him as a martial artist.
Ian Machado Gary.
I haven't watched enough of him, but I'm kind of going more so on what people say, but he doesn't seem to be liked. So I'll say potential, but not there yet.
Okay. If you weren't a fighter, what do you think you would have been?
I'm a person that's athletic, so it doesn't really matter whether it be fighting. I've been in everything. I used to do breakdancing, I used to ski, I used to be a swimmer, I used to play cricket, I used to play basketball, football, American football, rugby. I've done it all. So I'd have to use my body in some shape or form. So it would definitely probably be a porn star.
Good, really good. Yeah, I'd watch that. That sounds like a good show. That's good.
You're going to get to see the MVPness.
There's the name.
Also, are you going to the UFC? Are you?
I'm looking at my lawyer.
Right, we're going to end because you've been so wonderful and we've taken up loads of your time. Thank you so much. We're going to end with two questions.
Mm-hmm.
Firstly, I want to know, what was the hardest part of your career?
Hardest part of my career was fighting Paul Daly, and it's not because of the fight. It was more because my father had just passed away just before then. So there was a lot going on in the background. Again, it's stuff that people will never see, but there's a lot going on in the background. There's a lot going on mentally, internally, a lot of inner struggles while still, trying to be composed on the outside to everybody else, and then having such a big fight. I will continue to have a big fight. So I think that was just the hardest part of my career, just because of what was going on.
Yeah, I can't imagine what that must be. It must be so hard in general, just to doing the weight cuts, the training, all that, and then something so huge happening must have been made it just astronomically harder. And most people will never understand what that is like. But let's end on a better note. What is the happiest moment of your career so far?
It's difficult. I've had a few big moments, and I'm proud to say that I've been able to kind of create some big moments, but definitely the Cyborg thing was one of them, just because of how the magnitude of where it ended up going, and still to this day, like, people know me for that knee. But also I had a lot of fun with Dave Rickles and my Thanos glove.
Yes,
and I think because we had, it was, the occasion was big anyway, but I think everything happens for a reason. But Chris Pratt was outside, was watching. 50 Cent was outside watching. It just came together really well because, Dave Rickles is known for being a tough guy, and he's been in some horrible fights where he's ended up coming back after being beaten to shreds, bloodied up, and come back. And during the face-off, he brought a fake heart in and said he's going to take my heart, and then he ended up quitting. So it was just a full, like, I kind of loved it. People were like, were you annoyed that you didn't get to finish? And I was like, weirdly enough, no. Like, it just worked. You know what I mean? And like I said, then everyone kind of loved the Thanos and Chris Pratt being there, all of that. So it was just, yeah. And that he ended up talking about it on Saturday Night Live or something, which was, again, just again, the magnitude of where it ended up going to was just cool. It was cool to see. I got to sit down and speak with him afterwards as well. So yeah, that was another big moment. So, yeah.
That's incredible. MVP, it's been what a pleasure to have you.
Incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys, man. It's been good.
Absolutely.
enjoyed it. And even the interrogation, I enjoyed it.
No, but are you going to the UFC?
Wonderful. Well, look, make sure that you subscribe in the box below. You can check this out as a podcast format, and why not check out the archive of this podcast? There's hundreds of episodes that you can catch up on, and all the links are below.
Hang on, sorry, something's just happened. With this. Are you going to the UFC? Are you going to the UFC?
I would answer, but I would just run out of time.
Call us a gent.